Thank you. I wish I were 90 again. I don't know where I got it. I don't know why it happened, but I think I'm lucky because I always knew what I wanted to do. My name is Ann Margaret.
Do you hear that? That's Kaye Ballard.
I don't care.
Well, she made more people famous than you can imagine.
Bad Kaye.
She says it and she delivers it right to your face.
She can do everything, you know?
We'll have coffee, we'll talk.
She is magic.
Let's get real here.
She's a character.
Well, she was good in anything she had to do.
She's a protean talent, and she always was.
Oh, really?
Once upon a time there was a teeny tiny lady, just as tiny as a girl could ever get. Aww. And she was so very lonely in her teeny tiny house with just an itsy bitsy television set.
I really just fell madly in love with her when I saw her at the Bonsoir doing the teeny weeny little people.
Teeny tiny violins are playing.
We're very lucky that we have the things that exist of her on television where she would recreate some of the things she did.
It seems we stood and talked like this before.
When you sit down and try to analyze her career, you just can't imagine what it was that kept Kaye Ballard from going from here to here.
Curtains up, like the lights. We've got nothing to hit but the heights.
She should have played it on Broadway, and probably it would have made history.
She's had this phenomenal career, and it continues to do so. She still works.
You do have senior moments, but it's not so bad. Hit it!
I'm not sure how long I've known this wonderful man. I forgot. I think it's about 20 years, maybe longer. I don't know. It's so wonderful to see someone grow with their life and create magic. This man is a television preservationist, and he celebrates so many things. He's an editor. He's a director, he's a producer, and of the hit documentary of the legendary Kaye Ballard, Mr. Dan Wingate.
Jazz hands. Hey there.
His hands.
Great to be here.
Oh, I almost lost my light. There we go. I'm still learning how to use all this light and this and that stuff.
Oh, good.
How are you?
I am good. I'm good, David. Glad to be here. Glad to see you.
Oh my God. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's been a while. And of course, because of this wonderful quarantine that we're going through.
Yes. Yes, it has been. It's been too long.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did get you involved and why in television preservation and why?
Well, I guess the quickest way to say it would be that I went on a tour of a television station when I was 5 years old. We went to see a kiddie show. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there was a kiddie show called the Joey the Clown Show, typical local show back in the day. And I went, and I was completely awestruck with all of it. I was so fascinated with the process, and it just when I realized that what we saw on that television had all these people behind the screen that we couldn't see. That was when that opened up in my mind, and I saw that, I was like, this is the most interesting thing that I've ever seen, and I want to be part of it. And that was kind of the beginning. And so it was always there, the sort of interest and desire, to be a part of broadcasting, to be a part of television. I also, my brother was about, is 14 years older than me. And when I was a kid, he was in a band, and I used to go with them on the road in the summer when I was out of school. And so I got a lot of exposure to kind of the showbiz live performing thing from that aspect. So then what happened is later there was a convergence of these two interests where I realized that television was a capture device for performers, even if you take it out of the context of what type of show it was. So like, for instance, the variety shows were a great opportunity for performers to come on and do what they were doing in clubs, what they were doing, wherever, and it preserved it.
Yeah.
And what's so difficult now is to get people to understand how rare and unique this situation is, because you think about that, we've only had this technology for like 100 years, television even less than that. And so now we have, for the first time in the history of the world, we have a record of these performers that can be experienced by future generations and actually understand what their essence is. Like when we talk about Beethoven now, we don't know what he looked like when he played. We don't know what his body language was. We don't know how he sounded when he spoke. We don't have any of that information. All we have is the music that he wrote. Now we have this century of information on these artists. When you think about Bacharach on his television specials, and there he is playing, and Stevie Wonder, and these people whose music is in their body when they're performing, and you see it when it's presented properly on television. And so these old shows, which are viewed as old shows by a lot of the studios now, they contain these incredible performances. And there is some good movement in the direction of there's about to be a new channel that's going to be a part of Amazon Prime that features a lot of live concerts and things that originally were on television. And it's going to be a way to further curate that now that the DVD era is kind of coming to an end, which is exciting to me, because
this is going to be a whole channel of old concerts and TV shows.
And it's a group effort. It's John Lennon, Yoko Ono and the John Lennon estate, Sony. There's some other people, some big players involved, a lot of big players. So it's great, because also, as great as YouTube is with all of these things that we can experience, the artists aren't getting paid. The artists are not getting compensated. And this is the thing of people, this, and people assume that people in show business have money, that performers all have money, they're all rich, they're all, they just, that's not reality. And a lot of times these performers, when they do have a hit song or whatever, it's a very limited period of time that they are riding that wave. And then they have the rest of their life they have to finance. And so part of that is being compensated for these performances that they gave on these shows. And so doing it legitimately this way through Amazon is exciting, or whoever is exciting to me, because that is different than just paying the publishers and not giving any monies to the people who actually created the art.
So is it going to be giving monies to the people creative? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting, because it was, I always, a lot of people think, like you say, stars and musicians, they have all this money, they're rich. But as we know, most of them, or a lot of them, aren't.
Nope.
And they're living in 1-bedroom apartments or this and that. The other thing that really hit me this time when you said it is people think they're rich. And I went to rich. Why do they think they're rich? Because their work is so rich.
Yeah.
And it fills us up so much that we think, well, we get this feeling, it's not a thought process that most people go through, but this is just what I went through.
Yeah. And oftentimes the imagery that's used, in their art doesn't reflect their actual reality. It reflects what they're projecting, so it's like it is that thing like people, and now especially I'm so, with and I know this working with actors, in addition to musical performers, now the way that most of them survive is other work, side hustles. And with everything shut down, even the side hustles they don't have. So it's like an especially hard time right now for artists. And, I'm really encouraged that, we're starting to open back up as safely as we can, but it is a very, it is an illusion that people have about the entertainment business, that everybody has money.
Right. And with what we're going through now, you might see some people online doing interviews here or there, but that's a non-paying job.
Right.
So
yeah. And even back in the day, this is a funny thing because I thought the same thing when I was growing up. I would see these people on the talk shows and stuff all the time. Yeah. And I would think, wow, this is like the 5th show I've seen that person on. They were obviously promoting something, but when you look at I've done further research since then, and they just made scale for those appearances. They weren't paid. Even the biggest stars were paid like the minimum, just the after minimum for being on a talk show. That's because the value of that appearance was promoting whatever they were promoting, they were releasing. So you didn't get paid, you got compensated in sales. And this was also the way that the variety shows worked, because, and this is something that's also gone now, to a degree. The Voice does it a little bit, but that was the method that they used to let people know that they had a new album out, or that they had a new single out, or whatever, and they would perform it on the show, and then the money would be made in the sales of their product, not on their appearances, And the reason I bring that up is because nowadays in documentaries, a lot of times when you're dealing with performers who aren't with us anymore, and you're dealing with the estates don't always understand this aspect of how performers got most of their money back then. And so they think that when they license something for somebody using a documentary or something, that's a revenue stream. And it's actually, it's not a way to make a lot of money. It again promotes the music, and then the people go out and buy the music, and that's where you recoup, that whole thing. But it's hard to get people to understand that, because they just think that, you appear on television, you make a lot of money.
And I'm thinking, because I remember years ago, I don't know if it was 5 or 10, you were working. You worked as a technical specialist for Sony. You worked for the Library of Congress on film preservation. You worked at Walt Disney and Warner Brothers. And I remember you putting together shows. I think it was the Carol Burnett show.
Mm-hmm.
And
some restoration stuff on that, and
restoration,
a lot of those things. There was, I've been lucky that I met some people when I first got out here that were dear, wonderful people in the business. And, I really wanted to go in a creative direction too, but I didn't have confidence, and I also felt like I didn't have enough technical experience to, I wanted to be a filmmaker, but, and so one of the first experiences that I had out here, I went to work at Chase Productions, which was a real stroke of luck, because I learned it's literally school for audio. They teach you audio for film, and so that was my sort of introduction to the purely technical aspects of filmmaking. And what it did was it gave me that knowledge, so that recently when we released this film, I was able to deliver a lot of the elements myself, because I had worked in it, so I knew what they needed.
Now, what brought you the confidence? You said at first you didn't have the confidence. What was that thing that snapped, that said, hey, I'm going to do this?
Well, I just kept working on myself. We all have stuff, and we have things to figure out, about why we're the way we are. And I had things that had made me, I'd have been bullied a little bit growing up, and had was made to feel ashamed of some of that talent when I tried to show it. And it wasn't until later, as an adult, you go back and you look at that and you go, no, don't let those people give you that opinion of yourself. But you have to do that work over time when you can, as you can, and that's by doing it gradually, I became less self-conscious, less afraid of being criticized, afraid of being, called out,
Right.
singled out or whatever. That was a real fear for me for a long time.
Was it also the trust of yourself and your own ideas?
No.
Oh, you always felt good about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I always knew I was gonna make a movie. I always knew. I mean, these things I knew from when I was a kid, and it was like, it's just about, don't stop. Just don't put too much of a specific to it. Allow it to evolve like it's supposed to, and because of that, and I've sort of like, it's a control thing. And if you allow yourself to let go of that a little bit, the universe can help you. You can, if you've got it all figured out yourself, then nothing influences, nothing helps, nothing, because you've shut it off. You're like, I'm in control of this, so there's no influence. Whereas I've gotten better at this as I've gotten older. It's just like, allow.
Yeah.
Because then you can be, helped by people who know stuff and know more than me, and like that. That's kind of, I always just wanted to be in a collaborative work. I wanted to be in collaborative work. I love to collaborate. I love shooting around ideas and the whole knocking around of all of that. And, I'm hoping now, I'm kind of transitioning a little bit now and doing a little bit more creative stuff on my own.
Right.
But it's gradual.
Yes.
Like everything is just keep at it.
Now the film is incredible. I mean, it's such, I watched it and it makes me feel like I'm there. I mean, I grew up, of course, loving Kaye Ballard. Yeah. And to have this piece of work that you created, or you collaborated with, as you said, you love working with other people. Mm-hmm. Kaye Ballard, the show goes on. First of all, how and where did you meet Kaye?
Well, I met Kaye when the first ever DVD set that I produced was The Mothers-in-Law. That was the first time. I had been working on things up to that.
Yeah.
Helping, because, that's the other thing is like, this business, like a lot of businesses, you have to kind of get in there and be willing to help out and work and find out how the way things work before you get paid. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And if you're one of those people that's like, oh, I'm not going to do, well, then you won't have the experience. You won't get in there. That's just how it is,
Yeah.
And so I got the chance to do The Mothers-in-Law. So we drove down there to meet her, and I wanted to interview her initially. And we just hit it off. It was just like one of those things, she never had any kids.
Yeah.
And, my mom's been gone a long time. So it was very easy for me to treat her the way that I treat and just to give her that kind of affection. It was just a special thing. It wasn't overt. She doesn't like, she didn't like overt, that kind of thing, but it was just that kind of thing of like,
it fit like a glove. It was like
really a
wonderful friendship, family kind of.
Yeah. And I had no plans on doing a documentary on Kaye. It was not in my wheelhouse at all. I was working, I had left Sony after being there. It was almost 10 years, and I turned 50 years old, and I was like, you know what? This is not what I came to do. This is wonderful, and I've learned an incredible amount and met some great people, but this is not why I came out here the first time many years ago. And so if I'm going to find out if any of that's going to happen, I have to get out of this situation, because it's demanding enough that I won't be able to do anything else if I keep doing this. So I left in 2014 to go on my own. And so that's, that was where I was at that time. And the first thing I did was the Cinderella, the Rodgers and Hammerstein with Leslie and Warren, the one with Leslie and Warren. And we restored that. I restored that with Jonathan Angus, a buddy of mine who we do a lot of stuff together. And that was the first thing that I did after I left Sony. And then we started working on the Monkees and
the whole series,
the complete series. Yeah. For Rhino. And that's come out. That's like a collector's thing. It hasn't come out retail, but I think eventually they're planning on doing it, but it's like a numbered thing or whatever. Anyway, but it all got done. They got remastered beautifully. Grover and his team at Sony did all the remastering of the episodes. So they look incredible. But it was during that time, my friend Mary Jane, remember Mary Jane?
Yeah.
She moved out to the desert, and I would go out there and visit her and also visit Kaye while I was out there. I would just always drop by and see how she was doing and what she's up to, whatnot. And so one of those times I was there, and she said, I hired these people to do a documentary, but I don't really want what they kind of have in mind. She wasn't really dissing it. She was just like, this is not what I had in mind. And she said, I want you to do it. And I turned her down twice because it scared me. It did. I mean, because I'd never made a full length anything.
Right.
And I thought, this is a huge responsibility, especially for somebody as talented and ubiquitous as Kaye. It needs to be done right. It needs to be.
Did you tell her this?
Yeah, I told her.
And what did she say?
Well, let me see. How should I say? Basically, I got a call from somebody else who said, you need to understand that, you're not being asked. Kaye has decided that you are going to make this documentary. So you're going to make this documentary. So that basically is how it happened. So then I realized she's got her mind made up. So then that's when I was like, okay, well, if that's what we've got to do, then I called my producer buddy, Jim Pearson, and I said, she wants me to do this, but I'm not doing it without you, because I don't know how to do all this. I need help, And he was like, okay.
I got to interject here for a second, because that just hit me when she says, no, she chose you to do this.
Yeah.
To hear how you met and how you clicked is like sort of like a mother and a son kind of feel.
Yeah.
And then to feel that she could have had anybody, and she chose you because she trusted you.
Yeah. And I think the other thing really that was key is that Kaye was the same age as my mom. Mm-hmm. She came from the same time. She's literally 1 year younger than my mother was. My mother was born in 21. Well, it's 2 years. My mother was born in 21 and she was born in 23. So they came from the exact same era. So that was, I think a part of the reason that she decided she wanted me to do it was because I knew that era of show business. And not everybody my age knows or appreciates that era of show business to the degree, of knowing how it worked, and not the fantasy of it, but the actual nuts and bolts of how show business worked then. She was interested in telling the story for young people so that if they chose a career in show business, they would understand what came with it. So she didn't want, everything to be, all of these statements about how everything was wonderful and how everything was this and that. So the more I thought about it, the more I thought, and the way documentaries are made now, it's not really the sensibility that suits Kaye, and her personality. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, this, because she really is like a funny girl. She's literally that girl that she hit the stage when she was 15 years old, and she made her own way. And, I thought to myself, that's what we'll do. We'll fashion it like the old-fashioned showbiz musical biographies that they used to do back in the day, where, and not that it's all fantasy, but just to do it in that style, because that style of storytelling is what Kaye grew up with. When my mom, it was the same thing. She was so infatuated with movie stars as a child because that's what they were getting. They were getting the movie magazines during the Depression. All these children were poor, had nothing, and they were reading about these movie stars and all this, made up stuff, lives that they were living. And that fantasy is very much a part of that age group. That to them, success in show business is being a movie star, is not being, she, even clubs, she didn't like talking about working the clubs, and this was a thing to me because I'd always seen it as, when you look at it now, so it's like, oh man, to be there and these clubs and get to sit there and have this incredible music with, just a piano and maybe a bass and, a singer, just the elements, just all you need, right? So, to my mind, that's a very sophisticated, very elegant thing. But to her, as a performer, it was like, oh, it's miserable. There's always forks clinking. There's always people talking over you. There's people making noise, doing things, and you have to act like none of that is happening and perform. And then the other thing was she really felt like that as long as she was performing in clubs, that she wasn't considered for Broadway or considered for movies or whatever, because she's just, she's a club singer. And
well, I remember that quote saying that if she went on Broadway with Gypsy, it would have been amazing.
Yeah, and it would have. Yeah, because her voice is really, she's really something else. She has one of those confidences, that was just inborn. She never had as far as performing. Now, she would get nervous. Yeah. She had real nerves before performing, but that's because she cared. That's the thing. If you care, you get nervous.
Yeah.
It just goes with it. But once she's out there, man, she is just like, she's fearless.
Well, and she was one of those rare type, I wouldn't say completely rare, but a rare type where she was hysterically funny, but she also had the grasp of the heart and the seriousness of it. She could do comedy, she could do drama, and that's why,
Yeah, and she, it's like she mentioned very briefly that, she won a scholarship to Cleveland Art School, but she turned it down because she felt like she couldn't be the best artist. So you understand that this person had the qualifications to be a serious fine artist, and so the approach that she used in show business was, I think, much more serious than people realize, in terms of she was very serious about it. To her, the whole thing, and even to the end, like, this is so hysterical. Like, so when we did the screening in Palm Springs, she's still counting laughs. To her, if it doesn't have, X number of laughs within X number of minutes, it's a bomb, and then on top of it, she was deaf in one ear. And so you had to be careful about where you sat her in a theater when she was seeing something, because if she was on the wrong side, she would think nobody was laughing because she couldn't hear them, and so we had that too. It was always, but the thing of her is she loved show business. She loved, and she was actually, the other thing that I wanted to tell that I hadn't really ever seen before in that type of documentary is these people that are like facilitators. They're angels. They literally, because I could have gone so much farther into so many of those stories, but when you're galloping along 80-year career, you got to keep going. But she paid Fred Ebb's rent for a year before he even met John Kander, before he even knew John Kander. He was broke and had nothing, and she paid his rent for a year because she believed in him. She loved talent. She'd fall in love with talent, and she believed in him, and she encouraged him. And his rejection of her was one of the great heartbreaks of her life. And maybe that's something that can be talked about at another time. But that her life was not simple. There was nothing about it that was simple, even though she was fun and made people laugh, uproariously. She was a complex person, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in she to the end, that brain, like when she was talking about Woody Allen.
Yeah.
And this was, that interview happened totally by happenstance. So it was a complete surprise.
Yeah.
When she was talking about that and talking about working with him as a kid, she said, and this is in the movie, she says, all these comics, some of the stuff was good, but his appeal to me. And then she said, and I'll do it for you. And then she did the sketch that she did in 1954. She remembered it. And I was just sitting there just flabbergasted. I couldn't believe that she remembered this thing that she did one time on the Colgate Comedy Hour, 1954.
Oh God, I hope I have just a little of that kind of brain when I get.
Yeah. And she was signed to a contract by NBC in 1954 to develop her as a performer. She was one of, they signed a few performers and she was one of them.